Friends, welcome back to a new video. Actually, this is the continuation of the history class we were talking about. So we had just completed till the decline of Indus Valley civilization. Now we are looking into a time period from around 1500 BC to around 500 BC. So this is known as the Vedic age. Okay, this is the arrival of Vedic Aryans in India, and they're spread into the Indian heartland as well as into the peninsular region, and obviously their decline also. So we will divide this time period into two areas basically. So which is first one is the early Vedic period, which is from 1000 BC to 1500 BC to 1000 BC, and the later Vedic period, which spans from 1000 BC to 500 BC. As you know, like for BC, the time will be reducing like that. And first of all, what we are going to discuss here is basically the political, socio-cultural, economic, as well as geographical elements which are associated with this particular topic, and how the culture flourished and how it kind of declined. So first of all, what I wish to tell is, why is there distinction at 1000 BC? Because around during that time is the time of Iron Age, the discovery of iron. So that is what it differentiates between an early Vedic period as well as the later Vedic period. So first of all, we will look into this Vedic age. What does it literally means? Actually Vedic age all comes from the word Vid, literally means to know, right? So the early Vedic period is a time where the tribes, usually from the Central Asia, came to the Indian heartland, right? And you can see basically that their origin is somewhere around in the Turkish region, because as we know that many of the North Indian languages come under the Indo-Aryan group of languages. And if you have seen or heard about various theories regarding the origin of Aryans and all, but most accepted ones speak about something like the bogus Kui inscriptions, that is somewhere near in the Turkey, where you can find one tribe moving towards the east, that is coming to India, and you can see their subsections in the form of various other societies. For example, if you look at the pre-Islamic Iran, the Zoroastrians, the Avestan Persian and all has very much resemblance with the Sanskrit, right? And if you have read, like if I can quote Romila Thapar also, she has actually particularly explained that if you see like their god and like the good versus evil is like Ahura Mazda and Agira Manu. So Persian always have that tendency to replace S with H. So Ahura can be translated as Asura. So that means for us, Asura here means something like bad, but for the Avestan Persians, Asura means something good. So that means a group of Aryans may be somewhat different from that, branched out there, and less rest would have moved to India. So that is the way many a times Indologists and the historians make certain assumptions. So that's what I am telling. And why you can tell that the languages like Sanskrit or the pre-Sanskrit era has Indo-European, they form under the Indo-European languages, because you can see many connections of Sanskrit with even with the primitive forms of English. For example, you can say Brada, which is similar to brother, or Trini is similar to three, Pita, father. So you can see that connection is very much evident. So without moving further, you can say that once a group of such tribes arriving, then they brought chariots, of course, because chariots were not present, or horses were not present at the time of Indus Valley very evidently, but of course there were a few remains. But when this happened, what they found was initially kind of ghost towns, because most of the cities were like desertified and people moved to the internal areas. So because a civilization like Indus Valley was kind of lost. So once the Vedic Aryans came, and their initial expeditions were all recorded in the form of the earliest as well as the biggest and oldest of all Vedas, which is the Rig Veda. Rig Veda has around 1028 hymns. So from there it originates, like it is divided into 10 mandalas. right? It is not like it started from 1, 2, 3 till 10. It is 2 to 7 were considered as the oldest, then 1, 8, 9 and 10. Okay, so from examination perspective, you can say that there are certain mandalas which are important because the very important Purusha Sukta hymn that talks about the caste system, it is actually present in the 10th mandala of Rig Veda. And also you can see there is something called the Soma ritual that is there in the 9th mandala. And also you can say there is something called the Battle of 10 Kings, where Aryan as well as non-Aryan tribes fought with each other. So that is also present in Rig Veda. So Rig Veda has lot of these things that is talking about the northwestern part of India to the central part of India. So now we will look into the political, socio-cultural and economic life of the early Vedic period. Then what we are going to do is we are going to compare it with the later Vedic period. So politically speaking, you can say a small bunch of tribes mostly involved in the pastoral activities. King was something like a tribal head, like one among the equals. So you can say everything started with a family, right? Then families join together to form something like kula or clan, right? And clans forming themselves, so there is a family is there, then kula is there, then grama is there on top of it, which is the village. Then a group of villages form something called as vis, okay, something like similar to a district of today. Then on top of vis there is something called jana, and the head of the jana is Genesia. So that is acting like a king. So you can say small tribal chieftains kind of a body, mostly elected bodies. The king doesn't have kind of an absolute power that we see later. So religion is also kind of in the nascent form, right? The most prominent god where most of the hymns were related to was the Indra. Indra was there, Varuna was there, Agni was there. So these were the prominent gods, but Indra was the most prominent among them. And also when it comes to the bodies, you can have like Sabha, Samidhi, Vidhada, Gana, okay, and Parishad. So these are the 5 important bodies. So I will explain a little bit about each of them. Okay, you can say that Sabha and Samadhi were the elitist bodies where the priest and the kings were present. At the same time, you can say a very much element of women were also present. And Vidhada was there for distribution of war booty. War booty means like people used to fight, or clans used to fight, and the main reason for fighting is stealing of cows, because cows were considered as an important property and the land didn't acquire that much kind of value at that point of time. And Gana were the Republican assemblies. You can see they are called as Gana Rajas or Gana Sanghas. So instead of one particular family ruling, you can say a group of families they used to rule in between. For example, the Lichavis, where even Mahavira was traced from, or the Sakya clan where Buddha was from, were all having Republican lineages. So in some way, the Republican lineaged Ganasanghas gave rise to religious philosophers. That's an interesting aspect as well. So the and Parishad was there for the general administration. Okay, so that is there, and so this is about the political and socio-cultural. And economic activity, as I told you, it is more about pastoral activity, like coins and all were there at the nascent stage, and there is no such of a written script. There is no particular element of that written script, and so this is a kind of a tribal polity was there. So once what happened in the later Vedic period, or in the transition from early Vedic period to the later Vedic period, is there's a discovery of iron. So iron discovery means what? Basically, iron can be used for clearing forests. That means an encroachment into the new land, new unknown territories. That is one thing. Other thing is iron equipments can be used for warfare. So that is very much of an evidence is there. So at the same time, along with that, you can say population is also increasing. Okay, so as I told you, till now there were janas, right? From the family you have Kula, then Grama, Vis, Jana. Like Kula has the head, is the Kulapati, the clan head. Then Grama has the head, which is the Gramini. And Vis has the head, is the Vispadi, something like you can say like a district collector. And on top of his Jana is the Genesia. That is still the early Vedic period. and that time also priests were there, but it was more of voluntary, like the taxation was also almost in the nascent stage. So a state formation you cannot say as a well-knit way, but it is always in the nascent tribal kind of polity, and that is where it is getting shifted towards simply like a nation state kind of a scenario. That happened at the time of later Vedic period. And later Vedic period, what you find is basically on top of Jana, you can find something on top called Janapadas, not Mahajanapadas, Janapadas, or some simply you can call as Rashtras. Okay, so then what happens is now an imperial expansion has been there, because now for taking land also the wars and battles used to happen. So once wars and battles used to happen and the society getting more revolved, what in some way there is always a less preference for women, because women have problems when it comes to a warring societies in many ways. So the status of women, you can say, a little bit began to lessen, and you can, and there are certain bodies kind of disappeared also. For example, like vidhata for the distribution of war booty, like that kind of thing, kind of disintegrated, because stealing of cows, this and that, reason for war kind of got eliminated. And also the philosophically speaking, religion also began to evolve, right? As I told you, like from Indra, like you can say somewhat resembling like metamorphosing into the Vishnu, and Rudra, like from the Agni, you can say it's metamorphosing into Rudra or Shiva. And then there is the Brahma also. So you can say a kind of Hinduism that is similar to today. It began to take its initial shape at the time of the later Vedic period, and at the same time rituals also became complex. So and the caste system also became rigid, and it also began to get linked to the birth. So this kind of a society with separate nation states and separate kind of identities based on clans and all began to originate at the time of later Vedic period, and this is the time of a great warfare also, that is culminated in the form of the Mahabharata war. So like archaeologically speaking, it can be something around 956 BC. So the correct time is not exactly specified, but somewhere in the beginning of the later Vedic period, you can see the this Mahabharata war. But later, as time progressed, when it got written down, it happened maybe around 1400 years later at the time of the Gupta age. That's the reason why the grandeur of the war was at an another level. But actually it was more like a tribal warfare. How we know that? Because not much of archaeological evidences is there corroborating the literary description of it. So this is the transition from the early Vedic period to the later Vedic period. So I told about the way transitioned the polity as well as the religion, as well as economy also. Trade and commerce kind of emerged better. You can see more coinage. More coinage means state is also somewhat progressing. There is more trade and commerce, and like you can find that a kind of a nation state formation is happening many parts of the North Indian plains, almost reaching the Vidarbha region of the Maharashtra. Fine. So this is the way the society is progressing. So you can say the polity, economy, and geographically also, socio-culturally, religious wise also, a shift from a more tribal lifestyle to a lifestyle that is more in tune with a particular modern nation state. Okay, so that is what a shift that has happened from the early Vedic age to the later Vedic age. So now we have discussed from a time period from 1000 BC to 1500 BC to 500 BC. So almost at the end of the early Vedic age is where this nation state crystallized itself into the form of almost 16 Mahajanapadas. So on top of it, Janapadas, there is Mahajanapadas, and Mahajanapadas during this time also many changes do happen at the socio-cultural religious level also, because of the priestly domination that was happening, because of the crystallization of the society and the too much interference of the caste system. So that is what we are going to discuss in the next video. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.